Okay, straight away.
Yes, start it.
app download
version.
Okay. Yeah. Just we hope that you've all had a filling lunch, and this is the final section of the last two talks that we'll be having for FOSSMeet'23 for this edition. I kindly request all those all those who are seated towards the back, if you are comfortable with it, to move forward. It's so that it'll just be easier for the speakers to interact with the crowd. Okay, yeah, so moving forward, our next speaker is Mr. Andrew Bastin. He is the co-founder and CTO of Hopscotch. As a web-based API development suite, Hopscotch provides an easy and accessible platform to developers with a minimalist UI. It's completely open source and free to use suite. With a bachelor's in computer science at Lakehead University, Canada, Andrew is deeply committed to open source development. And in this session, he'll recall his journey with Hopscotch. I'd like to hand it over to Andrew now.
Adile.
Okay, good afternoon to you all. Hope everyone had a good lunch. Now, is anyone feeling sleepy? Please raise your hands. I'm not going to judge you.
Because I am feeling sleepy.
Okay, cool. I mean, it was good food, so that totally makes sense. First of all, I wanted to thank the NIT guys for bringing me to the event. It was pretty fun, and in the past 2 days, I got to meet a lot of people from the first phase. I got to answer the same question 300 times. I'm pretty sure someone in the audience is going to ask a question again, so I will explain what the question is then. But this is my talk. This is from Kerala to the world, the story of Hopscotch, basically. So yeah. So as the MC said, I'm Guru. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Hopscotch. Right? It's a big title, but one of the things I want to kind of say is I'm pretty sure I'm about the same age because you guys. It's just I don't look that in the appearance. I'm just turning 22, I think.
No way.
42
So. Let's get into that. This is something what
it's gonna be recorded, bro.
I think of it as the opposite of the Santur idol. Right? So that's my handles at Andrew Social. It's a very fantastic handle because I don't usually tweet. You will usually find me on GitHub at Andrew Bastin. Awesome. So I guess with that joke and the series of jeeps which are coming back, I hope everyone doesn't pass. Right. So, what is Hopscotch? This is an interactive sort of a session. I don't want people sleeping. So, can someone from the audience just explain what Hopscotch is? Whoever is basically going to explain, you had to take the mouse and basically. Yeah, not the mouse, but the mic.
Focus it.
Web-based API building platform.
Okay.
Basically, it's more comfortable than FOSSMeet'23.
Okay, cool. That's a pretty awesome definition. That's a pretty standard definition, but that is a little more sensitive to us. But I'll get into the why.
I mean, that's basically the point of it, right?
Yeah.
That's not.
Let's explain. Okay. So when you ask us and when people talk to us, I mean, of course, as a person who is trying to kind of build this team and build this community, build this project. We always say, with the fancy corporate terms, we are trying to build a vision for the future of API testing and development, right? Pretty fancy topic. But what people do is, we are also lovingly called the open source FOSSMeet alternative.
Open source?
Please don't call us that, right? I'm just going to give you, like, I know the age group, so I'm just going to give you a sort of an analogy that you can understand. Imagine if you call your significant other by the name of your ex. Like, you're saying, oh my god, you are much more polite than my ex, right? Come on, guys. So that's how it's for us. I know it's not exact. So I'm going to start with how it began, right? So we are going to go back in our time machine to 2019 August. It was around the end of the month. So Elias Thomas is a friend of mine, and he is also the founder of FOSSMeet'23. He just finished his college degree, and he got a job at a service-based company in Kochi, right? So I think this was around 2019, and Elias didn't used to be from like a well-off family. So he had this old, like really old, some Pentium chip, like 2 gigs of RAM somehow device, laptop basically, where he had to do his work. So basically run his developer server development and everything, and also wanted to test his APIs. And during that time, like everyone just used Postman at this point. So he was also trying to use Postman. The thing didn't run in his computer. Like it didn't even open up, right? It's such a hog that it was a problem that he faced in his work. So that's how the concept of basically, at that time he named it Post Movement. It's a pretty on the nose name, I do say so myself. Post Movement was born, and basically along with it he wrote this article on W2 about, we then updated it because we had some legal stuff with the term Post Movement and making a Postman competitor. So we had to rename it of course, but that's how it basically started, and he wrote an article on W2. It was actually one of the most read articles on W2 at that time, right? And in there he basically outlined like what the problem he faced and basically what his solution is and what his ideas are, right? The app used to look like this at that time. I don't know if it's very clear, but that's how it used to look. It's a pretty cool looking sort of neon vibe sort of a thing. Elias is really good at UX design and UI design, so that's how it basically started happening. And it's pretty simple, right? The whole point was this is just the bare necessities which you need, and that's how the thing started. It was a PWA from like the beginning. So like once you load the app, even if you go offline, like even if you open Hopscotch.io offline or Postman.io back then, it would still load the app. It doesn't need internet after the first time. Alright. So at that time, 29 August, when Elias wrote the blog post, there was a young Andrew Bastin who was actually preparing his UG studies, right? The typical, guy going to Canada sort of story. I mean, that's pretty common these days. Like aunties approach me and be like, "Hey, my son is also in Canada. Where in Canada? Do you know him?" I was like, "Canada is a massive place. How do you expect me to know you?" But that was sort of the vibe. But one day when I was preparing for the things, I saw the article and I found it pretty interesting. Right? There was like I found it interesting and I started like contributing to it, and that's how I began in the project. Alright, now I'm just going to take a slight tangent into kind of like one of philosophies because this is kind of important, and this was something Elias believed in as well when he open sourced the thing, which is about our open source beginnings, like why Hopscotch then Postman was like open source. We do believe that the future of developer tools is open source. If you just look around the tools you're using these days, most of the tools are open source, except certain IDs and that sort of stuff. But like most of the tools are open source or have like open source versions or something built on top of open source, right? So we do believe like everything eventually needs to be open source because of this one factor, right? Just that amazing factor of open source software where you can improve the tools that you use daily. I mean, how cool is that? Right? Like, sorry to start the editor, because I am a Vim user, right? It would be pretty awesome if I find a flaw in Vim, which I don't think there is. But, how cool would that be where, okay, I found a flaw and I can fix it, and then I can use it from there, right? And also to influence its direction, right? It's not just like, a set of people in the corporate basically sitting and, making up decisions. it is the actual users of the tool itself coming together and figuring out solutions to problems, right? They do debate, they do have the conversations, and they come to a kind of a solution, right? So with that article is how the journey started, and this is like an example for my like first year. So that is actually, I don't know if it's visible to others, but in GitHub, if you have not used GitHub, GitHub gives like issues and pull requests like ticket number, and I was ticket number 1. It was a pull request, and this is my literally back in there. Hi there, awesome project going on here. Well, here is my first contribution in the racket, possibly of many. And I was like, okay, this is the thing I'm kind of trying to fix. It's a small thing, but it was like, I feel like it's something we can fix. So, now when I think about it back then, it's like, yeah, well, here's my first contribution, possibly of many. First contribution of many, haha. Andrew in the future, probably. Right? Because what happened on the same day was I basically merged like 4 or 5 PRs. And I merged more PRs in the coming days. And more PRs. And more PRs. And I can go for even more. There was a point where I actually had more commits than Leas in the project. The dude, there used to be a point where Leas had to go like, I had to ask Andrew, I'm not sure about how this works. Yeah. And so on. I don't want to kind of fill this 45-minute gap with, just pull my pull request that feels like boasting at this point. But along with it, what happened was the project had insane growth. So again, we were actually pretty surprised. People are using this thing. That was our reaction. Like, okay, yeah, it solves the problem, but we didn't know this problem was like pretty big. Now, how big was it? After we published it, within a week, Hopscotch was like trending on GitHub. This is a more recent trending number 1, but whenever we release features, we are basically hitting GitHub trending number 1 worldwide. Of course, Hacker News, even there the title is open source alternative to FOSSMeet', what can we do about it? But even there, it's basically we were getting trending everywhere. And while all this was happening, so you had these 2 people basically primarily working on this project. There are more people. Most of them have like motivated me, and Leas are still on the project. Just 2 people who had never met even, by the way. And at that point, Leas didn't know I was because at that time, going to Canada, I was like, okay, I'll update my bio to like, okay, I'm living in Canada. And Leas didn't know, and my name doesn't sound like a proper Indian name. So that's the other interesting thing. We didn't even know. I mean, when Hopscotch was created, both me and Leas were in Kochi. Right? We haven't seen each other. We didn't know each other outside the project. But we were creating together something which was actually helping a lot of people worldwide. Right?
Kochi.
And so eventually, I think around early 2020, we started like properly formalizing like the contributor stuff, and we started having a contributor DM concept, because before that I used to only talk to DMs via like GitHub issues and products, and there is its more formal environment. So we got in a Discord DM, right? And Leas asked me like, where are you from? And I'm like, okay, I'm currently in Canada. Can anyone see that? I think the font is really small. Which city? And the next slide is funny. I said I was from Kochi. And Leas' typical response is like, Malayali, I don't know. Right? You should have told me earlier. I was like, yeah. Right? Now, that's where we kind of figured out that this insane growth is something, I mean, dude, you had to understand my perspective at that time. I was like insanely having this feeling that like, okay, this is something getting really big. And that made us realize like it's serious. Right? I think in my in the panel I did discuss about like that PR where like blind people were using Oxford, because that was the only tool they could kind of modify around to work with it. So those sort of stuff started happening, and we were like, shit, right? You're giving it to me. And yeah, so Leas honest like post basically said, yeah, this project basically grew far from where he expected, because for him, literally the initial version was released like 6 hours of prototyping. So he basically scratched the thing together, put it on GitHub, published it on Netlify. I think it was on Firebase hosting at that time, but some Netlify Firebase hosting. And he wrote the article and he told people about it, right? And then this started happening, right? So eventually, like by like 2020, after 2021, we actually started seeing people wanting to kind of modify and use hopscotch in an enterprise context, maybe integrated with other tools or like integrating with like other web UIs and stuff, especially in things like security and testing side, like API testing side, where they want to kind of extend hopscotch and use our basic kind of functionality. So this was basically the moment. We kind of decided like this thing is happening. So I was like, Elias, should we start becoming serious? So I and Elias became a lot more closer after that, after realizing we were both Malayalis, right? Malayalam has an effect on people where if we have two Malayalis together, we speak in Malayalam, it's like instant closeness, like bro. So now we decided, okay, we want to bring hopscotch to everyone, right? And we thought, okay, let's start this project. But we wanted a sign, right? We are like, Elias has worked in multiple companies by that time, and hopscotch actually made it a little more better for him in terms of like career perspective. Because you can say that, okay, I was a guy who kind of builds the post-movement / hopscotch thingy, and everyone knew the post-movement name. Not hopscotch, but eventually people figured that out. But for me, I was like, I'm pretty new to this whole thing, so I was like pretty scared, like, is hopscotch or post-movement and us working together just a fluke, right? So we wanted a sign, and we kind of challenged us. So we paused all development on post-movement. We said to the community that, okay, we are taking like a 1 month kind of period to kind of understand this whole thing. And we still like merge PRs and stuff, but just feature pieces mostly. So we wanted to see what we can build together and what, if it's just like, okay, we are in sync, we cover this thing, right? You are the yin, I am the yang, that sort of a vibe with the duality. So what we did is, both of us together, went into a hackathon. That was the FOSSMeet' 2020, I believe. Yeah. I think it was the first FOSSMeet', I'm not guaranteed.
Yeah,
I think 2019 was the first FOSSMeet', I guess.
No, it was the first one.
It was the first one, right. Yeah, I think Sogan was there for FOSSMeet' as well. He was working on one month, so he and... just Sogan, okay, cool. So, we went into the FOSSMeet' 2020. It was a 2-day hackathon, and we basically built this app called M. It was a pretty cool app. I want to kind of show a demo, but I don't know. It's like a... Yeah?
Go for it.
Okay. Oh god. Now this is where actually having two screens actually backfires. I'm just going to pray to the demo gods, please don't fail. I haven't touched the software for like 2 years or something. So, okay. It is a basic thing. We wrote this in 2 days, so that is a context you guys have to understand. So, we were building sort of this mental health sort of an app where, especially as maintainers for a big project at that time, our biggest concern was mental health. Because from one end you get like really emotional stuff, and other people are just screaming at you. That's what you have with maintaining a huge project. So we built this app called F. And come on, demo board. So I can just sign in, and SSO is much more easier to implement, so we just implemented SSO. And you can just like give feedback, like how's your day, like okay, I'm pretty happy talking in front of people, and you can like choose a fun task. Let's say once ago, not exactly but this, and earn a reward with this app. It's usually my favorite reward. And it's nothing much, it's just we have this theory where you can log your emotional experiences and kind of get it going. We spend, as how we go, we spend a lot of time making sure the app looks like amazing. that we didn't implement too much functionality by then, but we had like help videos and that sort of stuff, and then once you're done, you can just mark it, and you can get the reward once you're kind of done. It's a pretty simple app. Our focus was mostly like, let's build a product which, even if it's like really simple, it's really polished and actually usable by people somewhat. And within 2 days we could kind of figure that out. Okay, cool. So that's it. Right, and this was the FOSSAC sort of, FOSSAC has like project page where it shows up. I don't think that is showing up on the screen perfectly, but we were working on it. And then the prizes came, well, we didn't win like the grand prize or anything. There was a little programming language someone actually wrote or maintained on that day. So it was like crazy. But we got a run-up prize. It was 25,000 rupees, which is actually pretty cool for us because in open source that's still like a huge amount for us. So and what we got prize for was actually for the considerable amount of work in UI UX and our product thinking. So we decided, okay, this is serious now, right? So as with any serious thing, what do we do first? Can anyone sort of think, like, things are getting serious, so what do you do first?
Meet up.
Can someone give the mic?
Meet up for the first time maybe?
Meet up for the first time. No, we didn't decide to meet up. We actually met up on 2021 during a company incorporation.
Right, there was a pandemic.
Yeah, we had a pandemic, the whole pandemic in between. Okay, anyone else?
Even I'm not
make a flowchart of what to do next and how to proceed with it.
Close enough. I do believe you have a good future in like product specs and stuff. Okay, wrong. Okay, well, I meant this as sort of a funny thing. By the way, that orange, if it looks familiar, that's a postman orange. Just an in your face job. What you have to do is draft our fundamental philosophies. For open source projects, that's the first thing. Come on, post guys. I mean, Abraham just had like an entire talk. We were talking about the philosophy of Debian. Right? That's also what we started like this. Right? So, because the thing is, what you have understood is philosophies guide development and processes. Right? If you don't know what you're striving for, how can you strive for it? Right? So I just saw this video like I think 2 days before I got up to Calicut. I have a Rust station by the way, so I'm biased to Rust. I'm not going to bring up Rust after this 2 slides. But Brian Cantrell, he works in Joyent. Joyent was the one who actually, the company where Ryan Dow, the creator of Node.js, was working for when he was creating Node. But he was basically talking about about Rust, but he was talking about like values basically and how Rust comes into that perspective, and that was actually pretty interesting. So he drafted some core values, and this is not like a full like systemic scientific sort of a thing. It's just what he believed, right? And you can actually see there is actually really important things for a systems programming language to have. For example, security, which C doesn't have. But these sort of things, if you actually look into any feature C got, didn't get any features, but anything which influence C's development, it's basically from these core values, right? Now, why Rust? Why the Rust cult? It is a cult. Why we really love Rust is because this is clear. This is actually the things they are looking for. And for systems programming, it's pretty important. You be secure, you be safe, you be performant, all of these things. And whenever the Rust community sits together and they want to kind of understand, okay, they want to build a solution to something, they basically start from, okay, these are the principles which they are looking for. Like for example, when the Rust community was discussing about implementing async stuff, Go is the one who is usually compared with Rust. Go has Go routines and a runtime. The Rust community didn't, absolutely was not for having a runtime and I'm incurring even the kind of little bit of performance cost or something over there because they kind of fall into that principle. Okay. So similarly, we basically jotted down our three main guiding philosophies. So whenever we take a decision or hopscotch, we always look back into this. This is a talk I literally give to my team members basically when I join them in the hopscotch. So these are the things. First is be inclusive, right? As Leas mentioned in his comment over there, our goal is to bring hopscotch and let people use and love hopscotch from any kind of skill and experience level. Whether they are a developer, whether they are a tester, we actually know a little bit of people who were librarians in US somewhere, where their system was like really crap or something, and they wrote like some sort of an API or something, and they were able to use hopscotch. Right? So we kind of kept the philosophy, be inclusive, right? This can be like from the engineering perspective, but also from other perspectives where we are thinking about the product, we are thinking about the UI UX and the design. The other thing is more like we are building a product, so that sort of thing where we want to be integrated. We want hopscotch to start like eventually once the project is in once the project actually grows and when we grow things and improve. What we want is hopscotch to be integrated into every aspect of API development and integration. So let's say eventually we want so that you can start thinking of APIs within hopscotch. You can test APIs in hopscotch, that's what we do currently. But then you can also like generate code from hopscotch, then you can just paste it in your front end app and you have the proper thing. And that showcode thing is there in hopscotch. It's a post-run feature, but we still have it. But that's sort of the thing where it's going to be an ecosystem. We are building an ecosystem of tools, right? And we want to be integrated from like left to right, right? And of course, last but not least, the open source art. The reason why I and Leos met, the reason why hopscotch became something that it is because of the open source community, right? And it is not in our plan or in our vision to ever change that. As I said, we do believe the future of developer tools is open source, and we are not going to be changing that anytime soon. So we are also planning on working on initiatives. Currently, we are more talking about we are a little bit thinking about sustainability. But once we have figured that out, we have also plans to give back to the OSS community as a whole. Not just FOSS, but OSS community in general. So we have plans to kind of support the libraries, we are to kind of do everything to kind of keep the open source heart beating. So once we started defining all of these, we got around to talking to people. So we have this idea, we have a lot of things, and we want to get serious. As we wanted to kind of raise this as a company, we didn't think free software was the direction for us. So we got around to raising capital to jumpstart our vision. And that was like a 2-3 month process. It was fun, but also pretty intensive. And then I think by November we could announce, and there was an article on VentureBeat to kind of paraphrase it, to take things to the next level in pursuit of commercialization. Hopscotch today announced that it had raised $3 million in a seed fund built by OSSC. With participation from WordPress from parent company Automatic and a slew of angel investors, right? So this is the direction where a lot of people do disagree with this, but I have my sense, we have our sense of basically why we think. But fast forward to now, so this is all the story. Basically, that's how Hopscotch started and how Hopscotch is going. But fast forward to now, I have some fancy numbers you can show. We have around 300,000 plus collections created. This metric was recorded last October. I haven't checked the metrics again, but because Leas usually does it. But this has changed at least to like 400, 450K by this point. But that was collections created and still exists in Hopscotch. So this is by companies and stuff. We have had 200 plus project contributors working on the Hopscotch code base. And we don't really think of it really big, but it's still something. 49,000 plus stars on GitHub, right? If I guess everyone here who hasn't started Hopscotch, if you do start 50K, that would be awesome. You'll remember your face. And so much more big fancy numbers. I don't want to kind of go around and go for a lot more into it, but a lot of big fancy numbers there are. I don't want to kind of introduce that into it. But Because, but from so we are talking about just me and Elias. Now we are not a big team, but we are a very team of around 10. Not everyone is in this image. We eventually got together in Bangalore, and then we had this amazing trip across like Tamil Nadu in search of food. Apparently, there is also a big story behind this. This is all our engineers, by the way. So, and yes, we thought it was a very amazing idea to take like 5-6 engineers out for a hike. Right? How that story ended up was, the hike was around 3.5 kilometers. We thought we walked 1 kilometer, right? And everyone was basically dead. And except this one dude, one engineer, he was like running. Like I can't see him, we can spot him. But the rest of us were like basically dead. And then it was written over there on a post. The hiking part starts here now. Right? So the group of remarkable people who will like, we are an expanding team. We are not hiring right now, but we have a big announcement coming up like end of March. After which we are planning to kind of talk about our hiring stuff as well. But that's basically it for Hopscotch's story. That's a short merry talk. Thanks for listening to our story. And that's about it. Now, thanks for the attention, guys. Is anyone still sleeping? Okay, I think I did my job well. So, does anyone have any questions? I'm taking those.
Questions, Andrew?
Yeah.
So first one is, how did you embark on the name Hopscotch?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
And the second question is, let's say tomorrow Apple comes to you and takes over you.
Yeah.
So what do you do with Hopscotch?
Like takes over us, you mean? Like
yeah.
Like you say, like someone wants to buy us off, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So the first question's answer is pretty fun. I should have actually included that in the slide. It's part of our story. It's just we can't exactly talk about the Postman stuff a lot, basically because to be honest, the Postman guys don't understand jokes. They are a big company. So, I mean, they are right in the right way to kind of, we are building an alternative, but we are using their likeness. But so we basically received a call from the Postman lawyers, basically, that, okay, you have to change your name, dude. And I was like, okay, we can change the name. But, you know the most complicated thing in software engineering, right? Naming things, right? Except for if it's a variable inside a loop, then it's I. But, and if I is taken, it's J, and K and so on. But, naming a product is a very complicated thing. I don't know how many of you guys have watched Silicon Valley. Remember that scene? It's basically that. I'm not into that stuff, I'm just saying that's how it's usually figuring out a product name. So, what we did is we did actually a pretty interesting round. We actually announced it on Developer 2 that we want to change our name. Can you guys give us name suggestions? Right? And literally, it also turned out that also became a trending article. So what happened was actually the creator of the site, the founder of Developer 2, Ben Alpern, he reached out to us and was like, okay, why can't you name it Hopscotch? It is a reference to Grace Hopper and also like HTTP. For people who don't know Grace Hopper, she works in the US military in some branch, but she is a software engineer. She was a software engineer for the US military, and she is considered not. I don't know. I'm going to get cancelled by this. Yeah. But yes, she is to do stuff for the US military, and she is considered as like an amazing like woman in software engineer. So it is like a reference to her and that sort of stuff. But thank you. You didn't ask that question that people were asking me yesterday.
Second question.
There's a second question. What was the second question? Oh, if someone takes us over. I think it depends. If it's a heck ton of money, we might consider it. But no. But even then, so one of the beauty with the project is if people are pissed with us, people will take over us. And what that makes us do is, like, most of our source code is open. And if we don't open source something, the open source community is pretty resilient that they will actually release an open source version of it. So we are pretty confident. It's one of the things we love about our open source thing, and we do believe that eventually we can do things better than Postman, is because the community is always there to incentivize us. If we piss off the community, they will replace us. right? So we don't want to piss them off. It's part of our agenda. So to your question, that's basically it. It's a very uncomfortable question for you to ask with any startup founder. So would you sell off your soul to people for X amount of money? And you had to ask it in front of all of you. Alright. Any other question? Yeah.
How did you plan to monetize? How did you monetize the project so you can form a company and such?
Congratulations, you are the person who asked that question that everyone was asking me yesterday. And today, exactly like 5 minutes after that, where was that dude? Yeah, that dude. He literally asked me for like 5 minutes before, like, Andrew, how are you planning to monetize it? I haven't talked yet, I can't talk to him now. Okay, anyways, our monetization strategy is, as everything our engineers say, we are working on it, but that's going to be one of the announcements which we are going to be doing on March, so you guys should stay tuned for that. But currently, as engineers say, is I'm supposed to say legally, or not legally, well, from the company side, as a CTO, what I have to say is we are working on it. But rest assured for people, Hopus is going to be free. It's more going to be for companies and people who are above that sort of a thing. So it's like a profit-based, like you're figuring that out. Any more questions?
About the licensing part,
Yeah.
are you aware of any forks of hopscotch that is like sidely maintained, and are you concerned that maybe that there might be a possibility, and are you considering a relicense to GPL or maybe something else?
Switching to GPL. We thought about switching licenses, but we're still keeping it MIT. There was like